tuned in to the Evolve and Revolve Q&A series, where you ask the questions and I attempt to answer them. Tonight's question comes from Jaime in Kingsburg, California. He says, I'm at the gym for 30 to 40 minutes a day, 5 days a week. I do arms and stomach on Monday and Thursday, back and chest on Tuesday and Friday, and Wednesday is leg day. But I'm still skinny. My muscles aren't growing. What's the deal? Alright, Jaime. Now, before I answer this email, let me just state for the record that I am not a licensed or certified anything. I'm not a personal trainer. I'm not a dietitian. I'm not a health specialist or anything other than a guy who Googled some things and did some research before starting his own journey of physical transformation, who is happy to share his experiences with you from along the way. I also want to state that everybody's physiology is different. So what worked for me might not work for you. Or maybe it'll work even better for you than it did for me. Who knows? There's only one way to find out. Okay. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's get down to it. Jaime, it sounds like you've got a system down already, and that's great. Having a routine is a key element, because if you're not consistent, your results won't be either. But it also sounds like you're not doing much to achieve the aesthetic that you want. For example, I work out for 2.5 hours a day, 3 days a week. When I first started, I weighed 150 pounds. I'm currently at 190. I have spent most of my life at around 150 pounds, and it wasn't until I really started pushing myself that I was able to gain weight and build muscle. Now, I go for 2.5 hours a day, 3 days a week, because I work my whole body during that 2.5 hours. Arms, chest, stomach, back, legs, everything. All 3 days are back and chest days. All 3 days are arm and stomach days. All 3 days are leg days. Now, in my experience, the first step to building muscle is to lift more than you can lift. And what I mean by that is that if you just want to tone your muscles, you just want to get some definition, lift weights that aren't too heavy and do an insane amount of reps. For example, get 20-pound dumbbells and do 40 or 50 curls. And that'll eventually give you some great muscle definition. That'll tone you up. But it's not going to help your muscles really grow because you're not pushing yourself. If you want to actually build muscle, you're going to have to find your limits and then push them. You see, when you're working out to build muscle, you are actively seeking failure. I'm going to say that again. When you are working out to build muscle, you are actively seeking failure. You want your muscles to fail. The goal is to tear the muscle fiber so that when those muscle fibers heal during the resting period, they grow back even bigger than they were before. So here for you are some rules that I apply to myself during my workouts. Now, first of all, I do between 22 and 25 different exercises during my 2.5 hours at the gym. And I do everything in sets of 12. Most people do sets of 10, but I make myself do sets of 12. For example, most people do 3 sets of 10 on the bench press, 3 sets of 10, curls with the barbells, 3 sets of 10 dips or stomach crunches or whatever. But for all the sets that I'm doing, I do sets of 12. And the muscles that I really want to improve on, like let's say, I really want to expand my chest and my upper arms, I do 4 sets of 12 instead of 3. And for every exercise, I find the weight level that challenges me. And what I mean by that is if you can do 10 reps without feeling like you need to stop, then you're not challenging yourself. So for every exercise, I find the weight level where I feel like it's a challenge for me to do 8 reps, where I have to stop by the time I get to 8. And that's how I know that I've got the right weight level. And then I will stay on that weight level until I can get to 10 or 12 with no problem. Once I can get to where I do 10 or 12 reps with no problem, then that's when I add more weight to that level. So my next rule is that every time I have to stop before I hit 12 reps, I add an extra rep. So if I get to 8 reps and I stop, now I got to do 13 instead of 12. If I get to 6 and I stop, and then I stop again at 9, now I got to do 14 instead of 12. You see what I'm saying? So every time you have to stop before you get to the end of the set, you have to add an extra one at the end of it. The next rule is always finish your sets. So if you're doing sets of 12 and you make it to 11 and then you have to stop, still finish. Do that 12th one, or 13 if you're going to follow the previous rule for every time you stop, you have to add a new one. Now, the next step in the process, and this is very important, the next step is time off to rest. Because resting is when you heal. Resting is when the growth occurs, which is why I only go 3 days a week. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, instead of going 5 days a week, so that my muscles can recuperate and rejuvenate. When I first started going to the gym, I was going Monday through Friday, and by Thursday, my muscles would be so fatigued that I couldn't complete my workouts. I couldn't lift the amount of weight that I was lifting the day before. It was only after I did some research and I learned about the importance of resting and healing that I began to see the results that I was chasing, that I began to gain muscle and get bigger. So you gotta have time off between your workouts. If you want to grow muscle, you want to get bigger, you have to have time to rest in between. The next step is another important part of recuperation, and that is refueling and replenishing. After any type of exercise, the first 15 minutes is crucial in replenishment. It helps you rebuild the muscles that you just tore up. Now granted, anytime within like an hour after you finish your workout or exercise is still good to intake something, but that first 15 minutes is when you're going to get the most benefit and the most use out of whatever you're putting back in your body to replenish all the carbohydrates and calories and electrolytes that you just burned through during your workout process. Now, for most of us, protein shakes are the go-to. There are a ton of different products out there, and I know a lot of people who like muscle milk. I like muscle milk. It tastes good. But, as we all know, or hopefully we all know, protein is the building blocks of muscle. And so, since muscle milk only has 25 grams of protein, I drink this, which is Body Fortress, because it has 60 grams of protein per scoop as opposed to 25. And that leads me to the next part of this process. Food and food intake. Jaime, I'm not sure what your diet is like, and I'm not sure what your financial situation is. I have had the same conversation with a lot of younger guys who still live at home with their mom and dad, and they're not the ones buying the groceries, so they can't necessarily follow this part of the guideline that I'm about to lay down, where they're just going to eat all the time to replenish constantly, and so they kind of have a bigger battle than we do. But you use the phrase, "I'm still skinny." which leads me to believe that, much like myself, you are a skinny guy who's trying to put on the pounds as opposed to a larger guy who's trying to slim down. Okay? So that means that you probably need to eat more. Skinny guys like you and me, we're called hard gainers. And we're called that because we have a hard time gaining weight. We're skinny, we have a fast metabolism, and we're probably not eating very much. And even when we do, we burn through it really fast. But caloric intake is essential for building muscle. Calories are like the Legos for building muscle. The more calories you intake, the bigger you can get. Alright? So, my suggestion for you, and this is what worked for me, is to train yourself to eat every 2 hours. That's what I had to do. It doesn't have to be like a full-on meal where you sit down and you just grub and you're stuffed afterwards and you're like, oh, I don't want to move. It doesn't have to be that. But it has to be something, a protein bar, a bowl of cereal, a sandwich, some yogurt, something. It has to be something. You need to be intaking calories every 2 hours, because if you're not, your body is burning through calories every time you get up and do something, which is why you can't gain weight. So if you stick to this, after a couple of weeks, your body should be trained to basically get hungry on its own every 2 hours. And that will make it easier for you to eat more during those 2 hour intervals. Right now, if you're not eating every 2 hours, the first week that you do it, you're probably going to just end up eating small stuff, like I said, a protein bar or, a cup of yogurt or something, because you're not hungry yet. But once you get your body on board with this habit and this practice, within a couple of weeks, your body will automatically start to get hungry around every 2 hours, and it'll be easier for you to have a turkey sandwich that's like this big instead of a peanut butter and jelly sandwich that's this big, something like that. And as long as you're really pushing yourself and your muscles during your workouts, then all of these calories that you're intaking are going to turn into muscle instead of just turning into fat, because you're not pushing yourself. Now, as I said, I am not a dietitian, so I'm not going to go into much detail about what foods you should or shouldn't eat. Instead, what I'm going to do is just tell you about some of the foods that helped me gain weight and improve the size of my body. Let's start with peanut butter. I eat a lot of peanut butter. Ground turkey, potatoes. Potatoes have a lot of calories and carbohydrates. Cheeseburgers, anything with bread. Garlic bread, sandwiches, pizza, I guess counts because the dough is made of bread. Whoa. Hold up for a second. Let's pause. I'm not exactly sure how this got left off the list, but a staple of my daily diet is burritos. Every day, I eat burritos. Refried beans, seasoned ground turkey, flour tortillas. And as I said, I'm not a dietitian, but I kind of think that may have something to do with my ability to consistently accumulate muscle mass. Okay, back to the program. And then, of course, the biggest article in my arsenal is protein shakes. I have one protein shake every day for lunch, and on the days when I work out, I have two protein shakes. I have one right after I work out, and then I still have mine for lunch. I drink it right before I go to work, because that way, when I'm at work and I'm hustling and I'm walking around and I'm working and I'm moving, I don't burn through my calories so fast, and whatever calories I do burn through are what I just intook from the protein shake rather than what I've already been building. And so that caloric intake helps me keep on the weight that I have managed to accumulate. Now, if you do some Google searching and you look up phrases like foods that help build muscle, you'll find some great info, and that's how you'll figure out what you want to try for yourself. That's how I discovered the benefit of nuts and fatty acid and omega-3s and peanut butter. Jaime, I hope I've answered your question. And whether I have or not, I want you to remember that no matter what you do or don't do to achieve your goal, you won't see results overnight. Worthwhile changes take time, but small adjustments will lead to big rewards. So stay consistent and keep going. Hard work always pays off in the end. Always. So what I want you to do is I want you to designate a weight level that you'd like to get to. For example, the weight level I'm trying to get to is 240 pounds. Okay. I went from 150 to where I'm at now, which is 190, and I'm still going up a little bit at a time. So I want you to pick a weight level that you want to get to, and I want you to write it down somewhere where you'll see it every day. And then I want you to weigh yourself once a week. Not every day, not every other day. There's a reason that when you go to most gyms, they don't have a scale available. And the reason for that is because people obsess over it when they weigh themselves every day. Your weight will shift on a daily basis from a pound or two here and there, sometimes up, sometimes down. And so basically it's better to weigh yourself once a week, the same day every week, like every Friday or every Monday or every Tuesday, something like that, whatever day you pick. Personally, I choose Wednesday because it's the middle of the week. It's right between the weekends, and on the weekends I don't work out. So I weigh myself on Wednesdays. It's the middle of the week. And then if you really want to be like efficient about it, write down your results. Keep a notebook and write down the day that you weighed yourself and what you weighed, and start keeping a track on the side of what the difference is and whether it's staying the same or going up or going down or whatever. And then see how quickly you progress to your goal. And once you reach that goal, Jaime, I would love to see a photo update or video update. And then that way we could celebrate your progress together, man. I'll post it right here on another Q&A session. So that's going to conclude today's Q&A session. Hope you stick around and catch the next one, where I'll answer a tattoo question from Amy in Huntington Beach. But until then, as always, I'm Chris Patterson, alive, awake, and unbreakable. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.